Awaken your spirit, chosen one, because something deep inside you has always whispered the truth. You were never just another face in the crowd. They saw you, they laughed with you, they played their little games with your heart, thinking you were just another player on the board. But what they didn't know is this: you were the entire game. You see, some people never recognize gold when it's covered in dust. They mistake your silence for weakness, your kindness for naivety. They take your loyalty and throw it around like it's disposable, never realizing that your presence was their protection, your prayers were their covering, and your love was their lifeline. And now, in the quiet moments when the crowd is gone, and the game has ended, they feel it. They know they messed up. There's a divine twist to this story they never saw coming. While they were busy playing with your emotions, heaven was watching, recording every word, every action, every lie they dressed in charm. And now the shift has begun, because the soul they toyed with has been anointed. The vessel they rejected has been chosen. You were never the fool in this story, you were the lesson. Chosen one. They didn't just lose a relationship, they lost an encounter with destiny. They didn't just fumble your heart, they fumbled their blessing. And what's wild is this: they thought they had time to manipulate, time to gaslight, time to disappear and return like nothing happened. But spiritual clocks don't run on ego. Divine timing waits for no one. And now the door is closing, not out of bitterness, but out of obedience. If the truth of who you were had been revealed too soon, they would have used it, abused it, taken it for granted, just like they did your love. That's why God hid your value behind seasons of silence. That's why you felt invisible in rooms you were meant to shine in, because you were being protected, not punished, hidden, not forgotten, covered, not rejected. You were always different, but the difference wasn't meant to make you lonely. It was meant to make you legendary. You are the one who carried light into dark rooms, who gave grace to people who hadn't even earned your attention. You saw potential where others saw pain. You held space for people who couldn't even hold honesty for themselves. And that kind of love, that kind of depth, that kind of spiritual power, it doesn't go unnoticed in the realm of the divine. They played with a sacred soul, and now they feel the weight of it. In their quiet, in their silence, in their empty victories, they're haunted, not by your absence, but by what your presence did for their life. And now that presence is gone, now that light has been withdrawn, and they are left to sit in the very darkness they once invited. But here's what's even more powerful. Chosen one, you didn't lose anything. You gained clarity, you gained strength, you gained the knowing that you are not to be played with, bargained for, or half-loved. You are a force, you are a mirror. You are the one who entered their life with love and now exits with power. Let them feel it. Let them sit in what they've sown. Because what they thought was a game has become a ghost. And to you, the soul who gave, who waited, who trusted, who believed, your time is coming. The silence wasn't a punishment. The pain wasn't a sign of weakness. It was divine alignment, a sacred setup. Because now your enemies are your footstool. Now your absence is more powerful than your presence ever was. And now there, feeling like the fool they tried to make you look like. Chosen one, awaken now. You've been walking through life with a weight that no one else sees, smiling through storms, giving your all in spaces that barely deserved a glimpse of your light. You've stood in silence while others misunderstood your heart, misjudged your intentions, and mistreated your soul. But even in your quietness, heaven has been recording every moment. Every betrayal, every tear, every time you chose to love instead of retaliate. And now, that silence is breaking. The shift is beginning. The game is ending, because what they didn't know, what they couldn't see, is that you were never just another player in their game. You were the board, you were the lesson, the divine interruption, the voice of clarity wrapped in soft skin. But they missed it. They mishandled it. They played with grace like it was ordinary, and now that grace is gone, and what remains is a haunting void they can't fill. You didn't just walk away, they lost access to their covering, and you, chosen one, have stepped into your remembering. They called you weak because you loved deeply. They laughed at your loyalty, treated your presence like a privilege they were entitled to. But your loyalty was your anointing. Your love was your assignment. And your presence? That was never just companionship, it was covering. You weren't just being nice. You were standing in spiritual authority. You were interceding without even realizing it. You were shielding them from consequences they couldn't even comprehend. And now, without you, they're exposed. They didn't realize your heart was holy ground, that your love came with protection, that your embrace came with favor. And while they played their games, thinking they were in control, they were never playing you. They were playing themselves. Because you were sent. They thought you were ordinary because you looked familiar, because you were accessible. But they didn't know how long it took for you to become this version of yourself. They didn't see the nights you cried yourself to sleep, the spiritual battles you fought alone, the valleys you had to crawl through when everyone left. They didn't see the fire you walked through just to still be soft. And now they sit in silence, trying to figure out how they let someone like you slip away. Because now the games are over and the reality has settled in. They messed up. You were never foolish for loving them. You were faithful. You were honest. You were pure. But purity looks like weakness in the eyes of people who are used to pretending. You came with transparency and intention, while they came with masks and manipulation. And now, the one they discarded is the one they can't stop thinking about, because God has a way of elevating what people overlook. And He's doing that with you now. Chosen one, your value was never in what they said about you. It was in what God placed in you. The very things they mocked, your sensitivity, your kindness, your openness, are now the very things they crave. The same traits they dismissed are the traits they now idolize from afar. But this is the price of divine favor. People often see your glory after they've caused you pain. But I want you to understand something deeply. You were never their mistake. You were their moment, their test, their chance to rise higher, and they failed. Not because you weren't enough, but because they weren't ready for someone who was. You mirrored back to them their own brokenness. Your love revealed their lack. Your honesty exposed their lies. Your presence made them confront everything they had been avoiding. And rather than rise to meet you, they ran. They blamed you. They mocked you. But the truth, they were scared. Scared of the light you carried, scared of the peace you held, scared of the power in your stillness. Because your stillness wasn't passive, it was divinely strategic. You were never trying to control them. You were offering freedom. You were never asking them to change. You were asking them to choose. And now the one who always had options is out of chances. That's the spiritual irony of being chosen. You walk through life being overlooked, doubted, and mistreated because people are too blind to recognize what heaven has hidden. But eventually, God pulls back the curtain. Eventually, the light breaks through, and the same people who once looked down on you will be forced to look up to you, not because you sought revenge, but because you stayed aligned. Your healing is your vindication. Your peace is your proof. Your glow is your answer, and it's louder than anything you could have said. Chosen one, you were never just loving them, you were covering them. And now that your presence is gone, they feel the absence like a chill in the soul. They feel the silence in places they didn't know could be loud, and though they may never admit it, they've come to realize you were the blessing. You were the one who stayed when they gave you every reason to leave. You were the one who saw the best in them when they were showing you the worst. And now they carry that weight in every room they walk into. that regret, that emptiness, it follows them, because no substitute can replace what was sent, and let this be your peace. God is not mocked. What was taken from you will be returned in double. What was mocked will be magnified. You will not spend the rest of your life trying to convince people to value you. You will walk into rooms where your spirit is recognized without explanation, where your presence is honored, not questioned, where your soul is seen, not studied. Your days of being misunderstood are ending. Your season of being mishandled is over, and your time of rising, not in ego, but in elevation, has already begun. This is the moment they realize they lost the very thing they prayed for, and it slipped through their fingers because they thought it was a game. But not you. You've grown. You've shed the need to be validated. You've stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. And now you walk in the fullness of who you are, not seeking revenge, but radiating purpose, not chasing closure, but choosing freedom. There's a holy fire in you now, one that doesn't burn people but refines your path. You've stepped into the truth that you were the one all along, and you're done hiding that light to protect people from their own shadows. Chosen. When it was never about revenge, it was about revelation. They had to see what they did. They had to feel what they lost. Because sometimes God allows people to break your heart so they can see the strength He placed inside it. And now, that strength is unstoppable. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be light. You are not here to win their approval. You are here to walk in divine alignment. And as you continue to rise, do not look back. Do not question the silence. Do not doubt the separation. God removed what couldn't come with you, because what's ahead is too sacred to be touched by unclean hands. So go. Keep glowing, keep walking, keep healing, keep praying, because while they were busy playing games, God was preparing your name to be spoken in rooms they'll never enter. The honor that's coming can't be stopped. The favor that's unfolding, can't be stolen. And the peace that's blooming in your spirit, it's permanent. They may have played with your love, but they'll never again have access to your light. And that's the final move. Chosen one, you were never part of the crowd. You were always the confirmation, and that's why you never fit. That's why people were uncomfortable around your presence, but fascinated by your peace. That's why they tried to shrink you with subtle jabs, with distant silence, with mind games that were never meant to challenge your intellect, but to test your spirit. But let me tell you the truth, they never expected you to realize. You were the test they failed. They thought the test was you proving yourself, that you were supposed to chase, to beg, to explain. But no, they were the ones being examined. By how they handled you, by what they did with the gift of your energy, your heart, your prayers. You weren't just sent to be loved, you were sent to reveal. Your presence exposed who they really were, because you didn't come into their life empty. You came carrying purpose. Your honesty clashed with their deception. Your loyalty highlighted their instability. Your stillness uncovered their chaos. And they couldn't hide once you arrived. They couldn't pretend anymore. That's what made them run. Not because you were wrong for them, but because you were too right, too aligned, too awakened. You were the mirror they weren't ready to look into. It was never about whether you were enough. It was about whether they were ready, and they weren't. They were praying for a sign, for clarity, for a change, and then you walked in, not just with answers, but with accountability. You were soft enough to understand their wounds, yet strong enough to not tolerate their cycles. And that balance, that's rare, that's divine. They didn't know how to receive you because they never learned how to receive themselves. You reminded them of who they could be if they healed, of who they were called to be if they stopped running. But not everyone wants to see their reflection in truth. Some people would rather destroy the mirror than face it. So instead of honoring you, they tried to diminish you. Instead of rising to meet your level, they tried to pull you down, because your very existence was a spotlight on their spiritual laziness. You were growing, evolving, letting go, and they were still hiding behind charm and excuses. And when you didn't lower your standard, when you didn't collapse into the chaos, they called you cold. They called you distant. They said you changed, but you did change. You evolved, you outgrew patterns, you walked away from pain disguised as love. You stopped begging for reciprocity and started becoming the love you once begged for. And that scared them, because in that transformation, they lost the version of you they could manipulate, the version of you that needed validation, the version of you that tolerated crumbs while offering a feast. But let's be honest, chosen one, wasn't it always one-sided? Weren't you always the one forgiving first, explaining yourself, making room for their silence, excusing their inconsistency, praying over their chaos while neglecting your own peace? And even then, you did it with grace. You didn't expose them. You didn't retaliate. You loved them as if they were whole, hoping they'd step into that wholeness with you. But they didn't, because some people don't want to be healed. They want to be entertained. And now you're realizing that what you thought was rejection was really redirection. That closed door was mercy in disguise. That heartbreak was heaven's intervention. Because had you stayed, you would have settled. Had you remained, you would have shrunk. But God knew what you were carrying. God knew what He placed inside of you. And that kind of oil can't be spilled in broken vessels. That kind of calling can't be diluted just to make someone else comfortable. You didn't lose them. They lost alignment. You didn't lose love. You gained clarity. You didn't walk away from connection. You stepped into correction. And that correction brought protection. You're no longer begging for what already belongs to you. You're no longer explaining your depth to shallow minds. You're no longer waiting for someone to realize your worth when heaven already confirmed it. Now, you're walking differently. Not in arrogance, but in awareness. You've tasted too much pain to settle for crumbs. You've shed too many tears to water dead things. You've spent too much time healing to let broken people break you again. And maybe they'll try to come back. Maybe they'll reach out with half-hearted apologies or sudden epiphanies. But let this be known. Your growth is not their redemption story. Your peace is not a revolving door. Just because they finally recognize your value doesn't mean they deserve your presence. Just because they've awakened doesn't mean they're aligned. Sometimes people come back not because they've changed, but because they miss your energy. They miss the version of themselves they were in your light. But you're not that same person anymore. You've evolved. You're no longer chasing closure, you've created it. You're no longer seeking justice, you're walking in it. You've let go not with bitterness, but with blessings, and that's what sets you apart. Your healing didn't make you harder, it made you holier. It made you more discerning, more grounded, more radiant. Chosen one, you were forged in fire, sharpened in silence, raised in rejection, and all of it was on purpose. Every tear was teaching you, every silence was shaping you, every delay was developing you. So don't question what didn't work out. Don't grieve over what you had to walk away from. If they couldn't love you at your core, they weren't meant to hold your crown. If they played with your heart, they weren't ready for your calling. If they treated you like an option, they were never your divine assignment. Let them feel the weight of what they lost, not out of vengeance, but out of divine order. Let your glow speak. Let your joy testify. Let your peace preach sermons louder than your words ever could. Because your absence is not empty, it's prophetic. It's a reflection of your boundaries. It's a declaration of your worth. And every day you walk in your truth, you prove that healing is possible, that growth is powerful, that walking away can be holy. You are no longer available for chaos. You are no longer a shelter for storms you didn't start. You are a temple of wisdom, a vessel of truth, a bearer of light. And no game, no manipulation, no sweet-talking apologies can penetrate the fortress you've built through healing. They messed up. not because they lost someone perfect, but because they lost someone pure. They lost someone who was willing to love them through their darkness, someone who saw their wounds and still stayed, someone who prayed for them when they were plotting behind your back, and now they know. But you don't need their apology. You don't need their closure. You don't need their recognition, because God already gave you confirmation. Heaven already validated you. And your future, it doesn't include repeating cycles. It includes rewriting destiny. Keep your heart soft but guarded. Keep your light bright but protected. Keep your energy high but discerning. Because what's coming next is too valuable to be tainted by old patterns. And just remember, they didn't walk away from someone ordinary. They walked away from a miracle they couldn't comprehend. And that chosen one is something they'll never be able to forget. Chosen one, there comes a time when the soul stops answering to its old name. You're not who you used to be. You're not waiting at that door anymore. You're not rehearsing conversations in your head, trying to figure out the right words to say to someone who never truly listened. You're not breaking yourself into pieces just to be understood. You've closed that chapter, not with anger, but with reverence, because that version of you was too sacred to be mishandled again. And yes, they may come back. They may try to find their way into your life again, using old memories as keys to doors that have already been sealed. But not every return is a sign. Some are tests, some are temptations, some are the enemy trying to pull you back into a version of yourself that no longer exists. Let this truth settle into your spirit. You are not obligated to reopen what God has closed. You're not meant to revisit what heaven has already removed. Just because they finally recognize your value doesn't mean they're aligned with your destiny. There is no reward in going back to what nearly broke you. There is no peace in re-entering a space where your soul had to shrink to survive. There is no healing in returning to hands that once dropped what they should have carried. Not every apology comes from a place of repentance. Some come from the emptiness they feel now that your light is gone. Some come from the lack they sense after losing the one who held space for their chaos without judgment. But an apology without transformation is just manipulation with softer words. And you, chosen one, can no longer afford to entertain false peace. This journey you're on is sacred, it's divine, and your obedience to God's voice is louder than any nostalgia whispering from the past. You are being prepared for a future that requires boundaries, a destiny that demands protection, a calling that needs space to flourish. The door is closed not because you're bitter, but because you're becoming. And sometimes becoming means being alone. Not lonely, but alone in purpose, alone in prayer, alone in growth. Because not everyone can walk the road you're walking. Not everyone can breathe at the altitude God is lifting you to. Some people will want access to the view without climbing the mountain. But you've climbed too high to carry what once kept you low. So no, they don't get to come back just because they finally understand what they lost. You were always the gift. You were always the lesson. You were always the one. But some people only learn after losing the light. And while grace forgives, wisdom sets boundaries. Love is not weakness. Forgiveness is not a free pass. And peace is not permission to be played with again. You're learning now what real love feels like, starting with the love you give yourself. The quiet nights where you no longer cry over them. The mornings where your spirit feels lighter. The moments when you laugh without guilt, breathe without heaviness, walk without fear. That's not just healing, that's alignment. That's you stepping into a version of yourself that was buried under the expectations of others. This is your becoming. This is your blooming. This is you rising, chosen one. There's something even more powerful you must embrace. They were never playing you. They were playing themselves. Every time they lied, every time they ghosted you, every time they made you feel like you were asking for too much when all you asked for was honesty. They weren't breaking you. They were revealing themselves. They were showing you their own lack of emotional maturity, their fear, their ego, their brokenness. They thought they were clever. They thought they had control. But every game they played only proved what you already sensed. They weren't ready for your level of love, and they weren't ready for your level of truth. But you stayed silent. You didn't clap back. You didn't expose them. You didn't curse them when you had every right to. And that silence, that grace, that maturity, it spoke louder than any words ever could. It echoed in their spirit. It followed them. Because deep down, they know they had something rare, and they fumbled it. You are not here to convince anyone of your value. Your presence is the proof. Your peace is the proof. Your glow is the proof. And every blessing that begins to manifest in your life now, that's the loudest sermon they'll ever hear. You won't have to say a word. Your life will speak for itself. They thought they were ahead, playing games with your heart. But in reality, you were always steps beyond them. Because real love isn't a game. And when they treated it like one, they lost before they even started. You weren't playing to win. You were showing them what divine love looks like, but they weren't ready. And now they are forced to watch what they could have had grow without them. This is the turning point. This is where you understand that not everyone deserves access just because they miss you. Missing you is easy. Earning your presence again, that's the part most can't handle. Because that version of you, the one who tolerated chaos, explained yourself, watered others while you were dry, that version no longer exists. You've outgrown it. You've expanded. They were never playing you. They were running from the part of themselves that couldn't meet you. But the truth always returns, and that truth is, you were the blessing they prayed for, and they mishandled it. Now you walk differently, not to prove anything, but because the weight you once carried has been lifted. The soul ties have been broken, the illusions have been cleared, and in that clarity you've found strength. In that solitude you've found wholeness. In that silence you've heard God more clearly than ever before. Chosen one, this is your time to rise, not in ego, but in essence, not to get back at them, but to get back to yourself. The self that was whole before the pain, the self that was powerful before the lies, the self that was peaceful before the chaos. And now that you're back, there's no turning around, only forward, only upward. You are now their consequence, not by revenge, but by revelation. Your peace is a mirror. Your joy is a reminder. Your elevation is a warning that God will always protect those who walk in truth. And while they thought they were escaping accountability, they were only delaying the lesson. Because now, you are the lesson. Let that sink in. You've become the very testimony that will live in their spirit for years to come. Not because you stayed, but because you chose to go. Because walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Letting go isn't giving up, it's growing up. And silence. Sometimes silence is the loudest form of closure. Sometimes silence says everything that words never could. You are no longer just healing. You are whole. You are no longer the one being played. You are the one being elevated. You are no longer chasing love. You are attracting what aligns with the divine. And this is what happens when a chosen one stops doubting their worth and starts walking in their authority. You become the evidence, the proof, the standard. You become the one that cannot be replaced. The one who held space, carried grace, and moved with love even in the face of pain. And when they tell the story of their greatest regret, it won't be about something they lost. It'll be about someone, you, chosen one. Some of the deepest healing comes when you finally realize you didn't lose anything. You were redirected to everything. You may have walked through a season where your heart felt heavy, your mind confused, your soul questioning why something so real could fall apart so quickly. Why someone who looked into your eyes with warmth could leave you standing in the cold. You replayed the moments, searching for what you could have done differently. You wondered if maybe, just maybe, you were too much, too open, too loving. But let this truth break through the noise. You weren't too much. You were the answer to a prayer they weren't ready to receive. You showed up with clarity while they still spoke in riddles. You showed up with truth while they played pretend. You came with love and intention while they came with ego and distraction. They mishandled you not because you lacked value, but because they lacked vision. They were blinded by their own illusions, unable to recognize the divine when it was standing right in front of them. You were not rejected, you were protected. You were not abandoned, you were accelerated. Sometimes God removes you from a place, not because it was bad, but because your time there was complete. Your growth no longer fit the environment. Your light became too bright for the shadows that refused to heal. And so, what felt like heartbreak was really divine realignment. You were never meant to stay where your soul had to shrink to survive. You have to understand, when you were chosen, you're not just set apart, you are set ahead. You're given insight that others don't see. You're handed keys to spiritual doors that others don't even know exist. Your path is not ordinary, because your purpose is not common, and with that anointing comes separation, not punishment, preparation. You are the blueprint for something new in your bloodline. You are the chain breaker, the one who said, "This cycle ends with me." You are the prayer that your ancestors whispered in the dark. You are the fulfillment of promises spoken over generations. So don't mourn what had to leave you. Celebrate what's making space for your becoming. There's a reason your soul couldn't rest in that relationship, that friendship, that situation. Your spirit knew what your mind hadn't yet accepted, that you were settling, that you were staying in something that couldn't hold the magnitude of your calling. And God, in His mercy, allowed the discomfort to become so loud that you couldn't ignore it anymore. And yes, the leaving hurt, but your soul is breathing now, isn't it? You're sleeping lighter, laughing easier, praying deeper. You're not begging for crumbs while you serve full meals. You're not apologizing for your intuition. You're not making excuses for someone else's emotional absence. You've come home to yourself, and in that return, you found peace. Not because life is perfect, but because your spirit is no longer fragmented, trying to be loved by someone who didn't even love themselves. Chosen one, this version of you is sacred. You've been through the fire and came out with wisdom. You've faced rejection and emerged with clarity. You've endured seasons of loneliness and found the strength in solitude. And now you carry a peace that passes understanding. You glow differently, not because everything has gone right, but because you no longer need external validation to know your worth. You have been refined, not ruined. Every moment you were overlooked became an opportunity for you to look inward. Every delay became a doorway to deeper trust. Every betrayal became a lesson that sharpened your discernment. You have not wasted a single tear. Not one prayer went unheard. Heaven caught them all and wove them into the tapestry of your becoming. And now you walk with authority. Not the loud kind that demands attention, but the quiet kind that commands respect. You've realized you don't need to explain yourself anymore. You don't owe access to people just because they finally see what they lost. Some people have to live with the lesson, and that's okay. You're not bitter, you're better. And in that better, you're becoming more than they ever imagined, more than they knew how to handle, more than you once believed you could be. So don't look back, don't second-guess the progress, don't question whether you made the right decision. When peace replaces anxiety, that's your confirmation. When growth replaces guilt, that's your direction. When silence feels like strength, that's your elevation. They may still be stuck in cycles. You've stepped into seasons. They may still be circling the same pain. You've learned how to plant joy and watch it bloom in new soil. You are not who they left. You are not who they forgot. You are not the echo of their rejection. You are the evidence of God's redemption. You are the restoration story in motion. This is your season to reclaim your joy, to protect your peace like the precious oil it is, to surround yourself with those who see you clearly, value you deeply, and love you fully. To wake up each day knowing you don't have to beg for what aligns. You just have to be in position, and don't you dare play small now. You've come too far to dim your light, to make someone else feel safe in their shadows. You've done the work. You've cried the tears. You've prayed the prayers. Now it's time to walk in the fruit. Walk like you're chosen. Speak like you're anointed. Move like the doors were already opened, because they are. There's no more shrinking. No more silence. No more asking for permission to be powerful. You've been hand-picked for this moment, called out from the noise, set apart in the wilderness, strengthened in solitude. You are the one who made it through what was meant to break you, the one who turned pain into purpose, the one who refused to let heartbreak harden you, the one who kept choosing love even when love wasn't returned, the one who prays when others panic, the one who sees beyond what's visible, the one who is no longer running from the calling, but running with it. Chosen one, walk boldly now. Not because it's easy, but because it's yours. Every step you take is writing a new story. Every breath you breathe is a declaration that you are still here and that your presence is on purpose. They may have doubted you, they may have left you, but none of it stopped the plan. None of it delayed the promise. None of it canceled the calling. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are aligned. You are covered. You are rising. And no one, absolutely no one, can stop what God is doing in you and through you. This is your confirmation. This is your moment. Chosen one, your life is the proof that divine favor doesn't miss, that authentic love still exists, that miracles are real, and that those who walk in obedience will always be led into overflow. So keep walking, keep praying, keep trusting. You're not just going through life, you're walking into destiny. Chosen one, hear this with your whole soul. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are right on time. The delays didn't deny you. The rejections didn't reduce you. The heartbreak didn't halt you. Every single thing that tried to break you only made the fire in you burn brighter. Every setback was a setup for the sacred shift. What you thought was working against you was actually working within you, chiseling away everything that was never meant to stay, so your true self could rise from the ashes. You were never forgotten. You were being formed. You've walked through seasons where silence surrounded you. You've sat in rooms where you felt unseen, unheard, and undervalued. You've prayed with hands that trembled, cried tears in spaces where no one even noticed your pain, and showed up with courage while your heart was quietly breaking. But let me tell you something heaven noticed. Every tear was counted, every ache was answered, every lonely night was a conversation between your soul and the divine. And the reason it all happened wasn't to punish you, it was to prepare you, because what's ahead of you is too weighty to be built on anything less than truth. You see, the anointing on your life cannot be carried casually. You are not called to blend in, to stay silent, to play it safe. You are called to shift atmospheres, to awaken what's been sleeping, to bring life where others see emptiness, to walk in rooms and change the frequency just by being there. You are the proof that survival was never the end game. Transformation was. Everything that came to destroy you had to bow before the one who made you. And now, your strength is undeniable. Not loud, not boastful, but steady, rooted, deep, like the roots of an ancient tree that has weathered storms and still reaches toward the heavens, growing, stretching, bearing fruit in season. This is your season, chosen one. You may not feel ready. You may still feel the sting of what was lost. But even the wounds have become sacred now. They're no longer open. They've become windows for the light to shine through. The pain refined your purpose. The betrayal sharpened your boundaries. The confusion cultivated your clarity. And now your eyes are open. You don't need validation. You've got vision. You don't need acceptance. You've found alignment. You don't need to chase love. You've become the vessel of love itself. You're not walking into your next chapter, wondering who you need to be for others. You're walking into it rooted in who you are in spirit, not who the world wanted you to be. No more shrinking, no more explaining, no more molding yourself to fit into places you were never meant to stay. You are not here to repeat cycles. You are here to break them. You are not here to wait on permission. You are here to walk in purpose. You are not here to carry burdens that don't belong to you. You're here to carry light, to move in peace, to embody wholeness in a fragmented world. And yes, there will still be moments where you question the path, where the road ahead seems foggy, uncertain, or even lonely. But that's when you remember, you are not walking this journey alone. The divine walks with you. The same spirit that carried you through the fire will carry you through the favor. There is a timing that governs your life, a divine schedule that no one can alter, no person can rush it, no enemy can block it, no mistake can cancel it, and no delay can destroy it. Everything is unfolding as it was always meant to. And you are right on schedule. This is not the end of your story. It's the activation of everything you were born to become. You've buried parts of yourself to survive, but now it's time to resurrect. The softness, the courage, the joy, the wonder, the fierce faith, it's all coming back, and it's coming back stronger. You are reclaiming every part of you that fear tried to steal. Chosen one, don't just survive, soar. Don't just wait, rise. Don't just hope, embody. Walk like you've already received it. Love like you've never been hurt. Trust like the outcome is already secured, because it is. What's for you won't miss you. The table is being prepared. The door is opening. The shift is already happening. Let your presence be the evidence. Let your peace preach. Let your power whisper. Let your path speak volumes about the one who carried you when you couldn't carry yourself. You are the miracle in motion. You are the answered prayer. You are the divine confirmation wrapped in flesh and breath and brilliance. You are the one they didn't see coming, but now they can't look away. And if you ever forget it, look at how far you've come. Look at what didn't destroy you. Look at what you survived without applause, without rescue, without being understood. That's your strength, that's your mark, that's the sign that you were never ordinary. You were never weak, you were never forsaken, you were chosen. So keep walking, keep trusting, keep glowing, because when the dust settles, when the noise fades, when the games are over and the masks fall away, you'll still be standing, whole, anchored, empowered, and no one will be able to deny it. You were the blessing all along. You were the answer, the light, the shift. And now it's time. Step boldly into your divine becoming. The world needs who you truly are.